Right, whose take is it now? Got another one?
Again?
Kasad, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about doing a G2 take, and I was thinking between two of them.
Come on.
One was supposed to be that G2 isn't making the major from the RMR, which would be too much.
I can't lie, that is a hella spicy take.
Yeah, but I gave up on that one because like they haven't, you know.
It does feel like haterism, I can't lie. There's no real reason to justify it, you know. Like,
and
you're just hoping on their downfall at that point, right?
Yeah, that would look bad. That would look bad, so I didn't go for that.
Okay.
The point is, I went for the other one, which is m0NESY is the best player of G2 at the moment.
That's an interesting take. It's an interesting
I
take.
think right now, in terms of impact and like big frags and like big decisions into the round and all these things, like they kind of push them over the edge in those key moments of the maps they won, in the events they won, and they're playing right now. I think m0NESY was the number one, you know, player in that team who was delivering all those things. Yes, Nico is a big guy. Yes, Nico is gonna be the, you know, the contender for the best player of all time and everything. But at this moment, right now, in this like lineup, during this, you know, little era of G2, m0NESY is the one who has the biggest impact and their best player at the moment.
I mean, not that far off that. I think like I would want to say, like, you know, the gut reaction here is kind of like, oh, what about Nico? But m0NESY has been doing a little bit more for them also, I think. So it's kind of like at Kato, Hunter was like the big game player for them. But I think m0NESY, where m0NESY is actually a little bit more like susceptible to being like weak in a big moment, is that I think he's actually a little bit easier to game plan around than some of the riflers for G2. Like Heroic dedicated so much in terms of resources to giving m0NESY a hard time in the grand finals, and I think that's kind of where I would push back against this, because I think that when they did that, like m0NESY was flashed so much per round. His like flash time per round was like above 4.5 seconds per round. He was getting blinded. So that's pretty, like, the fact that he can be game planned against is where I think I don't want to give it to him. But I think in almost every single game that's not a grand finals, where you're against one of probably the best strategic teams in the space right now in Heroic, m0NESY is going to come out better than almost anybody.
Right, here's the thing. I actually I do agree with Kasad's take, actually. I think just for right this moment, I do think m0NESY is actually the best player in G2. I'd even argue, I actually think he might even be, this is debatable, because obviously you have the Cloud9 stat, but I think, bearing in mind he has to play in semis and finals like Cloud9 doesn't, I think he might even be the best CIS player. He might just be the best CIS player straight up. Like, he's better than the RV players. He, like I said, he definitely has more sample size than the Cloud9 players. People like Outsiders Spirit, they're more in the middle of where they go into. Like, so I don't mind it as a take. Here's the thing. The only reason I instinctively initially want to push back, like a classic hot take, is just because one area I do think is criminally underrated to this day about Nico's game is, this is how you know when narratives get set, they never get changed for some people. They're static forever. Because people remember, like, Nico's prime in the original phase with Carrigan. You remember this, Kasad? He was more in that vein of, like, he could lurk a lot more in that time, right? That was one of the things he was the best at. Like, I think people still think that's Nico, and I don't think they've watched him in G2, especially the LAN era of G2. It's like, guys, his fucking amount of, like, opening kill attempts on T-side is incredibly admirable. For a player to put the numbers he puts up, and consistently, he's going against the best teams in the world. Like, if people don't know, I've got the stat here. This year, on LAN, this guy has 28.4% of the T-side opening kill attempts. 28%! You're all going to think, he's a rifler, so I guess he's going to be more like Blame F, you know, like at the back. No! This guy's got, so that, I will say, that does, to me, has like a hidden impact, especially on the T side, which I think, quite frankly, is where Huxley's a bit overrated, obviously. But if you want to just go on this factor, I do always say this, I do think at the end of the day, there are aspects you can argue around it, but kills are the most important metric in Counter-Strike. I don't really care what anyone thinks. And m0NESY just kills more right now, understandably. And he has the AWP. The AWP will always mean your differential's better, because you die in less, you kill him more. If you kill with a rifle, you kill two people and they kill you. We all know the way it goes. So I think, as an overall point, I agree. I do agree. I think m0NESY right now could be the best in G2. I think probably is.
Listen, what you said about Nico is absolutely true, and that the reason why this is happening is what makes him, the one of the best players to ever touch the game. Simply, you said like people are remember him as a lurking and all these things, like lurking around, and now he's more aggressive, and that's simply because he realized on time that his game needs, adjusting, updating with the Counter-Strike that he's been playing. If he didn't do that, if he continued to play like he did, he would end up like Coldzera, he would end up like Happy, he would end up like Get Right, Hiko, all these players that didn't really update their game whatsoever, and they just, fallen off completely. He updated completely 100% with whatever is going on, and then he's still on the top level, and he's gonna stay there. But at this moment, like I said, right now, last 3 months, in these events they won, in these events they played, m0NESY has been the #1 guy.
By the way, as an aside, Maui, I actually found a tweet randomly the other day that was just such a peach. I might have to bring it out for a video or something, because it was a tweet I did in early 2017. Carefully think of the date I'm putting there. Remember, early 2017 is when like Nico only joined like FaZe in March of that year, if you remember, right? In early 2017, the tweet was something like, "We are privileged to live in a generation that contains both Simple and Nico." And do you want to know why it's a peach? Because not only is that a hell of a call, remember, this isn't 2018, boys. This isn't when they're all top. But even better, the top reply is some idiot fan going, "What about Coldzera?" Well, what about Coldzera now, motherfucker? Which one of us, which aged better there? I picked Simple and Nico. I've always said this, boys. I've always said this. The 3 players I picked in CSGO history were Simple, Nico, and Device. You can have all yours. Who did you guys have? Olaf, Meister, and Coldzera? Forrest. You had Forrest as your third, didn't you? Well, how was that fucking aged? Exactly. So all I'm saying is, what a fucking amazing tweet. What a great tweet. I've had a lot of shit tweets too, but when I have a good one, I've got to give myself credit for that. I've had some pretty bad ones too, but
Got to take your wins where they come.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.